Hello, hi, welcome everybody. Good evening, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be commencing in just a while. I'm sure there is a slight delay on LinkedIn, so we will account for that. Don't worry at all. So we'll wait for another 30 seconds for more people to join in. And yeah, then we'll commence. We have a very special guest with us today. So till then, grab some snacks, put in your earphones if you're driving, safety first, and we'll be starting in just a bit. All right, so I can see that people have started joining us. So once again, welcome everybody. Good morning, good evening, good day. Thank you for joining us from whichever time zone you are in right now. We're always glad to have you with us. I'm Ghazal, and it is my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Pallavi Rawal, who's retired from the Indian Army. She has over 13 years of experience in project and operations management in information security, vendor management, and team leadership. And she has successfully led major projects, earning the Army Commander's Southern Command Commendation Card. That was a mouthful to say, so you know it is a very impactful thing that she's done. Her experience spans strategic planning, governance, team leadership, innovative problem solving, making her uniquely qualified to share insights on today's topic. So, everybody, please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Colonel Pallavi Rawal, retired from the Indian Army. If you want to show your support, you can type in welcome in the chat box, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on LinkedIn, and we would be.
Hi, Ghazal. Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind introduction. And thank you for inviting
To
me.
us.
And
Great. Hi, Pallavi. Yes, you're back. You're back live.
hi. Hi, Ghazal. Thank you for the very for your kind words and the introduction. I'm happy to be here and share my experiences and how I can help you in implementing ISMS in a very practical manner. And I promise it won't be theoretical only during the course. And I'll share some quick tips on how you can implement it practically at your organization.
Wow. Thank you so much, Pallavi. So the stage is all yours. And please take on. I will be in the back end to help out. Guys, please feel free to put in any questions, any queries, any suggestions, opinions you have and you'd like more discussion on. Please put them in the chat box and Pallavi will be answering and adding to your thoughts and questions here in this very live session. Take on, Pallavi.
Right. Thank you, Ghazal. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Today, we are here to have a small webinar on how to practically implement ISMS, our ISO 27001 standard. I'll be sharing quick tips. I'll give you a brief overview on the standard and where do we most of the times we fail or we do certain we ignore certain areas which are critical to the implementation of the standard. So with this I'll start with the webinar proper. So apart from the brief overview on ISO 27001, there'll be a quick ISMS steps. What are the five basic steps that you need to implement ISMS? I'll provide you with a very small but very crisp audit ready checklist and implementation pitfalls, like I said, and a few course insights. So, what is ISO 27001? It's a global standard. It's a global accredited standard which is acceptable and is implemented across all industries. multiple sectors, right? It is not just applicable to the IT industry, but financial, healthcare. It adds value to your organization. It definitely emphasizes on the brand value, because it shows that you care about your people, the people you are serving, the services that you are providing, and you take proper all the measures related to the security of their personal data, of the processes in which they are involved, right? So basically, when you talk of ISMS, you can consider it equivalent to the blueprint, security blueprint of your organization. uh, and also, like, you have houses, in houses you have doors, you have windows, right? And you have CCTVs. Why do you put them in place? Just to ensure proper security. Similarly, iso's ISO standard implement proper policies, procedures, and um, evidence audits, just to make sure that everything is in place to ensure the security of your asset, your processes, your data, right? So it help organization identify what is critical to you. For example, we look at everything from the business point of view. What gives us revenue? What helps us increase our business? What prevents our reputation from damaging, right? So you identify what are the most critical and important assets or processes which are important and are directly client facing, right? You want to identify the risk associated with them, manage, and try to reduce, ensuring that your CIA tried is always prevented. CIA, I'm sure you all are aware, it refers to confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your assets. Now, assets are not just restricted. When we talk of asset, primarily in IT domain, we just don't talk about hardware or software. We talk about people and processes. They all combine together to create a list of assets, right? This is what we mean when we want to say assets. Now, why it matters, ISO 27001, we have already covered, right? Because it adds a brand value. It shows everyone, it shows the customers that you're serving, that you take care of their information, their personal data, and how you process it, right? And for example, there was a recent case wherein the AIMS website got hacked, and there was an issue in RBI as well. So why after that they wanted to implement ISO 27001, so as to ensure certain security controls are always in place, right? Then so next point that we would be coming as part of ISO 27001 is that it should be inherent to your company's culture, to your organization culture. It should be top driven and not bottoms up, right? Because when the top leadership, your management of the company, is fully involved in ensuring the security of the information and how your customers are protected, their data is protected, their money is protected, whatever processes, let's say if you're a financial institute, if it is like your health data, are you protecting it? So unless they are involved, it cannot be implemented properly, because whenever we want to implement something new, we always face challenges. There is this inner resistance from the uh, people. There is inherent resistance to implement new systems, to do automation, right? But if it is top driven, it comes as a compulsory thing, it becomes indispensable. It is something that you all have to adhere to, it is not optional. And that is why I say, in today's time, when our reliance on digital infrastructure, because post COVID we went totally on hybrid or remote way of working, right? We went to cloud infrastructure, everything went on cloud. So it is more and more imperative that we protect these assets, right? So it has to be protected. It is not optional requirement, it is important, it is compulsory, and that's why we want to implement ISO 27001, right? So it is see, when we want to implement ISMS, don't think that it is a standard which you have to go through. Who will read it? It is very easy to understand a standard. Once you read it, there is a way to read it, and once you read it, you can implement it, you can maintain it for as long as you want, right? So during the course we learn how to understand any standard, how to read it, how to implement it, which clause are generic and which are more critical to you from the implementation point of view. For example, when you talk of ISO 27001, there are 10 clauses. The first three are generic, but starting from clause 4 onwards up to clause 10, these are actually functional, which you have to implement. So, what you have to read, how do you read in between the lines to know what is to be implemented, what is important, right? Because ISO doesn't tell you everything is important, it teaches you how to identify what is critical, what should I protect, right? This is what it is. Now the core principle of ISO standard is the risk based approach. Now if I want to tell you about risk based approach, let's consider example of an HR department in any company, right? HR department we have in any industry across multiple sectors. So if they want to save the data of their employees, I'm sure they must be using some HR based information system, right? There are multiple available in the market right now, right? So you store the personal data, you store their qualification, you store their salaries, you store their bank details, right? And these are all critical. What if you lose them, right? So and you have the regular policies which and the HR department manual and so forth. Now let's see what is most sensitive to you. So amongst the three things that I've told you, what is the most critical and sensitive information to be prevented is the personal data of your employees. So now I would want to encrypt it in the first place rather than encrypting the other things. So I try to identify what is most critical to me. In this case, the private data, as in the personal information, PII of my employees. I realize that if it gets leaked, their banking details are, is a possibility if a data breach take place, their entire data is available in the open forum, it can be sold and misused, so I have to encrypt it. I identified the risk. I know what control is to be implemented, that if I encrypt, it is protected. Now you have done the treatment, and this is how you identify multiple risks for your critical assets, and then you prioritize which one is to be treated on priority, which is to be treated first, right? The biggest risk takes the precedence, and this is what risk based approach is all about. And then continual improvement. ISO 27001, let's make a point not to do it just before the audit. It has to be done continuously throughout the year on a quarterly basis. Internal audits should be done in your company so as to show, because every time you realize there are certain instances, incidents, something or the other, and then you try to renew your assets, your risk registers, etc. And the third point is business alignment and compliance relevance. What I mean by this point is that, let's say you are working in a healthcare industry, so you have to comply by the NHA and the HIPAA standards, right? But do you want to take care of their financial data? Do you want to seek what qualification they have? So it is irrelevant to your company, it is irrelevant to your processes and operations. That is what I try to identify, what is needed, and you should work with the minimal information necessary to execute any process. You should work on the concept of minimalism and what is aligned with my business. Healthcare means I would want to protect the healthcare data. I will not collect any other form of data. So you will take all the measures to protect, that sort of data. This is called business alignment. Then when you talk about compliance relevance, it means that, let's say I'm working in India. So if I'm into financial sector, I have to make sure that if I'm into online trading services, I comply by the SEBI guidelines. I have to follow the RBI guidelines. And if in case there are any other policies applicable to any banking institution or investment firms, right? But if, let's say, you go to EU, you go to European, your client is a Europe, is based in EU. So you have to take care of DORA. You have to take care of GDPR, because where if you are storing personal data of your clients, you have no other option but to take care that your GDPR is you are compliant with GDPR. DORA for any financial institute, to make sure all your ICT critical dependencies are known and you take care to protect them. And that is what all about. So you take ISO 27001 as the base standard, and you put all your local laws. Local, when I say local, it means regional, as in country to country. So you take the common laws, regulations, and framework and put it at the top of ISO 27001. You map so that there is a coherent security framework, and then you implement it. These are the key focus areas when we talk of ISO 27001. Now, when we moving on to the next slide. Now there's a quick ISMS setup. See, when you talk of ISMS or ISO 27001, you have been tasked to implement it at your company. Don't get overwhelmed. It is not that difficult. Nobody asks you to create 50 or 100 odd documents. No, it is not important. Everything can be restricted to 12 to 15 most critical documents that auditors look for. When you create and you show auditors unnecessarily documentation, it shows that you don't know your organization. You are confused as to what to protect. You don't know what is important to you. So that knack to understand what is critical, what I have to protect, is very, very important. And this is what you learn through this course. Right. So let's start with the step one, which tells about defining the ISMS scope and security objectives. Right. Let's say I'm working in any company, let's say Tata Consultancy, or if I'm working for any healthcare, let's say I'm working for Apollo Hospitals, which have branches all over the country, right? They have the companies spread all across India and even global, right? So do you want to implement ISO only to the Delhi based company, Gurgaon based region? You want to implement at the Bangalore office or wherever? So you try to identify your physical boundaries, and on the top of it then you try to identify the logical boundaries, whether even if the Gurgaon office, do I want to, or let's say in the India office, do I want to, or US based office, do I want to implement it only at the IT, or let's say DevOps, or certain departments, or do I include HR and any other department which is there in the company at present? Right? What are my security objectives? What am I trying to prevent? Right? So in that case, you have your uh, strategic objectives, you have your financial objectives, you have your security objectives. What do you want to prevent? You identify, I want to reduce the phishing number of phishing attacks, from, let's say I receive 25% of my employees um, faced phishing attacks, and they actually clicked those unverified links, and your data was compromised. If such incidents have happened, do you want to reduce it to, let's say, less than 3% in the first quarter? Such kind of objectives we create, and we try to implement certain controls that help us achieve them. Right? So this is all about defining scope, wherein physical and logical boundaries are identified, and what security objectives are we trying to reach, and what time frame. The next is you identify the asset, risk, and the stakeholders. Assets, like I said, hardware, software, people, processes, everything under the umbrella comes as part of your asset. You create asset inventory, which has to be continuously updated. Let's say I was taking a third party service from somebody for my financial services. Let's say HR is has outsourced the payroll function, the salary disbursement function to some other company, to an external service provider. So when did I stop? What was my start date? What was my end date? Have I included them? So you try to include all these assets, right? And then you try to identify the risk associated with it, prioritize them, which can lead to financial loss, which can lead to your brand image loss, your reputational damage, or strategic loss. You try to prioritize them and implement the controls. And then you try to assign the stakeholders, which are who are my asset owners, who are my risk owners, who will be the custodians of these assets. Right? All these things need to be nominated right from the start. If it is not there, once you implement, you will have to get all these things done. Then you establish the policies and assign the responsibilities. When you create these policies, these are dependent upon the guidelines, local laws, frameworks, and regulations in which sector your company is providing services. Then ISO standard has NXUA, which has 93 controls categorized under four major categories, like people, organization, and others. And then you see whatever are applicable. When we try to implement controls, we have to give justification to the auditors for excluding any specific control. Why are you not implementing this control? Have you implemented access based control? Right? Do you have physical, do you have CCTV monitoring, do you have such kind of controls? Everything is seen. Database control, are you following encryption for your data at rest and transit? All such things you see, and you try to overlap and relate with the risk that you might face. And at the end of it, not at the end actually, you have to document everything continuously. Whether what did I found, if you found certain risk, you documented it, you have to take the approval of your top management, whether they are aligned, what risk are to be accepted, what risk are to be mitigated, what risk can be transferred, and all such things. The decision on these need to be taken and approved, and these need to be documented. You need to cure the evidences. For example, if you are putting on encryption, do you have the screenshot that you did implement this control? The approvals taken, is it duly signed? You have various IT charter committees, cyber security committees at your organization, right? So all these committees, are the minutes, are the meetings being conducted quarterly? Are the minutes of the meeting being documented? Are they getting signed? Are they being acknowledged? And so forth. So there are so many things which need to be documented at every department level. ISO teaches you to identify them and then keep a track of all these things. So this is the, if you follow these four steps, your ISMS is operational and very effective. Then we move to audit ready checklist. Now, it's like you have to be audit ready every day. You cannot be audit ready just 2 weeks prior the audit, or maybe a week prior. It doesn't happen that way. You have to be in an audit ready state always and every time, and not just during the assessment. So how can you do it? That you do all the mandatory ISO 27001 standard documentation, which includes the policies, right, and other frameworks documentation, approvals, committee creation, roles and responsibilities, etc. Right? Keep your asset inventory updated every time. If an asset has retired and it's no more being used, you have to list it in the asset inventory and make sure that it is out from the inventory of the asset owner. Right? The certificates are maintained, whether it is physical or any data based asset. Right? And do you follow data classifications, confidential, restricted, public, and so forth? Make sure that these are also applicable to your assets as well. Right? Internal audits ideally should be conducted every quarterly, so that it doesn't provide it provides adequate time for you to make sure where are you lacking, where are the gaps, so that you have sufficient time to take controls and measures to overcome them. Right? Then maintain updated risk assessment and control. Let's say, those who are working in the IT sector, you must have seen Cloudflare went out. There was an outage of Cloudflare between November to December twice. Right? During this period, all the client portal or the client facing services went out for minimum 2 to 4 hours. Right? So did you log it into your incident response register? What did you do? Did you found out that there is a concentration risk on Cloudflare? Did you log into your register? So such things that you need to see and constantly update in your register, document it, and keep a track so that you don't face the same problem again. Right? Record the security incidents with root cause and lessons learned. Yes, it is important that we don't repeat, or we don't repeat our mistakes. Those gaps are adequately closed. And even if after implementation of necessary controls, even if there are gaps or risk, it is duly accepted by the management. You should have those, all such incidents should be adequately logged. Right? And then Maintain an evidence folder, like I said, for screenshot, reports, minutes of the meeting, and any kind of approvals that you take. If you're compliant, you are confident, and you can show the regulators whatever information they want at any point of time. Now, where do we fall? Where do we lack and where do we fail while implementing ISO 27001? There would be cases that you have done everything for implementation, but when the auditors come, they fail you. They don't provide the company with the certification. Why? Because it was done. If you see the first point, that you treat it as a one time project because you did it in hastily just prior to the assessment. This is not a one time project. You did it in March, and now you again looked at it, and then you left it. You didn't monitor your risk. You didn't update your asset inventory. You didn't see your control. Somebody left the company, but he still has the access. His access was not revoked. What if you realize this mistake after 2 months he left? But what about in these 2 months? Was the data stolen or did any incident happen? So it is not one time, it has to be continuous. It has to be tracked and monitored by respective owners, right? Whether process owners or data owners. Then overloading with unnecessarily documentation. Like I said, do not give extra information which is not required. It confuses the auditors. It shows you don't know your organization, you don't know what is important to you, right? Be crisp and definitely provide what is important and it is mandatory as per the standard, right? Skipping risk treatment updates. Let's say you implemented a control and you see uh, there is still persist a risk. Did you maintain that in your risk register? Did you get the approval from the top management that this risk still exists? This is the residual risk, and we are ready to accept it, right? This is something that you need to update. Then weak internal auditing or lack of top management, it has to be dropped. Even I'm saying it time and again because I believe in it. It is factual that unless the top management or the leadership is involved, they take it as a priority, the ISMS implementation is going to fail, right? So what is the most important thing that you should always maintain? That you should maintain ISMS role. Who's my info security officer? Is if there is a charter, weekly, quarterly meetings take place, the minutes are recorded. Who will record it? Who will get it approved? What will be the time frame, right? Who's my asset owner for this customer data? Who's my asset owner for, let's say, AWS and its configuration? Everything needs to be documented. Always plan your ISMS implementation in multiple phases, right? It has to be stepwise implementation, which you may do, which you will learn during the course of during the duration of the course. And keep your documentation relevant and current. It should not be obsolete, right? Audit quarterly and make sure your leadership is involved in the ISMS reviews. They review it constantly and you document their reviews, whatever their pain points, whatever changes they want to implement. Take decisions and implement that. And then just want to quickly show, real world success stories. Zero the Tata Communications, Apollo Hospital, they recently they implemented the ISO 27001 in order to prevent and further enhance their security infrastructure in relevant sectors. Zerodha for ensuring the client's financial transactions are secured, their personal data is secured, right? And Tata Communications implemented ISO as a baseline standard, and on the top of it, they implemented multiple other SOC certifications just to make sure that the security infrastructure and framework is immaculate, right? Apollo hospitals, again, for protecting their clients' personal data for better compliance with the health standards, right? So with this, the next batch that I'm taking on ISO 27001, I'll also be covering few aspects of GRC and TPRM. And the course starts from 14th of February from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. For 4 weekends. And I'll teach you ISMS in a very practical manner. Trust me, it's not going to be theory. And I'll give you we'll take live case studies and live implementation, how to create those documents, how to identify. Everything will be covered adequately. And with this, I finish my content for the course. and I'm open to questions if you have any.
Hi, Pallavi. What
Hi.
an insightful session this was. Oh my God. I was sure that a lot of the issues that you had brought up, a lot of the things which sound so common, they are, I'm sure, plaguing a lot of companies and a lot of professionals at this point. So
Yeah.
possibly they need to get in touch with you or they need to start training with you in order to understand how to plug those gaps.
Yes, I'll be
We have a
happy to help.
question. Superb, superb. Okay, so Femi is asking us from LinkedIn, is there a certification exam after the course? Hi, Femi, thank you for joining. And I'll take this one. Yes, so
Yes.
there is a certification exam after this course. Protect Academy is in partnership with Exemplar Global, and your certification upon passing the exam will be via Exemplar Global. Okay, now Aman is writing from YouTube. He's asking cost of the course. So great question, Aman. I'm going to be flashing the numbers on the screen. So sorry. Yeah. So you can reach out to us on this number, and one of our associates will be helping you out with the course details, price, timings, multiple rollovers, and recorded lectures, what our LMS looks like, what a dashboard is, and all the perks that you get for joining Protect Academy. So we'd be happy to help. Feel free to reach out. And Pallavi, we have a compliment for you. Amazing session, Pallavi.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aman. Glad to hear that. I'll be covering all these points in much more detail if during the course.
Absolutely. And Pallavi, you take them through case studies and like what kind of hands-on activities can they expect during the session?
So we have case studies based on certain
Mhm.
companies, what are the risks they are facing, what are the issues they are facing. Like I
Mm,
said, I give you example of like a company is divided into three regions, what to
mhm,
cover, what not to cover, how that
mhm,
decision is taken, how you identify your critical important assets. All these
mhm,
are covered. So such case studies are given. We go step by
mhm.
step and we create our documents, whether it is asset inventory, risk registers, policies, we work on everything.
Okay, superb. So it's sounding to me like it's kind of like a controlled environment wherein they get to make and break stuff, and
Yeah.
you are there to monitor and guide through and through so that they can make all the mistakes that they possibly can in these activity sessions. And then once they're actually out there in their organization, they would know exactly what to do.
Yes, the course will be, it's like the students will be divided into teams. They'll be given exercises, few durations, and then once they create, it will be discussed what are positives, what are negatives, where did they go wrong, and how can they further improve. So that's how it's done.
Great, great, superb. Sounds good. We have another question from LinkedIn. Is lead implementer certification IRCA certified? So, Pallavi, do you want to take this or shall I?
Please go ahead, Ghazal.
Okay, superb. So, thanks for writing in. We cannot see your name, it says LinkedIn user. So, see, the lead implementer certifications need not be certified by IRCA. IRCA is an auditor's body. So, once you go for a certification like lead implementer, ISO 27001 lead implementer or 42001 lead implementer, lead auditor. So, once you go for the auditor certifications, that's when you need the IRCA
Yes.
accreditation. Yeah, other than that, for implementation, you do not need IRCA. So there are multiple bodies out there. One of them happens to be Exemplar Global. So your certification will be accredited by Exemplar Global.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Ghazal, for answering.
Super. So I think Aman is a super fan. He's now come on another platform, LinkedIn, and he's saying
LinkedIn.
amazing session, Pallavi. Thanks,
Thank
Aman.
you, Aman. Will you be joining the course?
You should definitely get in touch, Aman, and you'd learn a lot. If you gain so much from this session, you're going to be having a blast learning and experimenting during the live classes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, so just Ghazal, if I may put up.
Mhm.
So, in case you're already CISSP qualified and you think ISO is not for you,
Mhm.
that is not the case. See, because CISSP teaches people how to look after the networking, right? It's more of a technical. But if you have ISO 27001, it provides the company an image of yours that you have the technical know-how, you have the technical knowledge, but you also have the hands-on governance,
Mhm.
compliance maturity. So they know that with technical knowledge that you have, you can handle the business aspects also. So you can handle the compliance related aspects of the business. So it adds more knowledge from the business point of view, I would say. So, and those who are freshers, it is really good course because it definitely gives you an edge from the remuneration point of view, as in your salary aspects, and it helps you adjust well into your audit teams if you're part of the implementation team or the audit team. If you have your basics right, with the hands-on experience that you get in the company, it will give you immense advantage.
Perfect. And I think for any fresher who's looking to get into GRC, I think this is
Yes.
like the perfect uh, way to do that.
Yes, yes.
Superb. So we have a question again, LinkedIn, from LinkedIn. It says, "Ma'am, thank you so much for insightful session. Does ISO 27001 help veterans who are from non-IT background venture into GRC roles?"
Yeah. Hi. Thank you. Yes, I am also a veteran, right? And I have come across many people who are into non-IT. See, I wouldn't say that purely non-IT backgrounds, but let's say you are into compliance. You want to get into the compliance. Let's say I give you example of health sector, right? So, health sector, you are more aware on the health aspects, healthcare business and their operations. So with this course, at least you know how to protect the information whatever you're gathering, because you have data with respect to your doctors, with respect to their schedules, right, with respect to your clients, their financial transactions. So if you are in that role, so you can guide your um, management team or the leadership so as to how you can protect, because any kind of data breach in today's environment clearly damages your reputation. So it is critical and it is important. But let's say if you are from physical security background, you are into the physical domain, if you want to transit from into the managerial roles, and if you want to upgrade yourself, and you want to get into more of a risk identification and compliance role, this course can help you.
Super, very well put, Pallavi.
Thank you.
We have another question. Okay, so Pranav from YouTube is writing, "Hello, ma'am. This was really a wonderful session. Do you think a third year engineering student who is interested in ISO 27001 and GRC related things can join the course?"
Okay, so if you're doing engineering right now, and you'll be moving for placements in your final year, right? Um, so this does give you an insight, but see, I'll not say, because you just have to enroll into the course, but maybe you can take it next year once you are towards the placement session. That would help you, and I'm being honest. Like, if you are into IT or cybersecurity domain, you're doing engineering, even in AI, cybersecurity, IT, computer science, and any technical field, right? Even if you're doing it in EC or others, then it is definitely a very helpful course, because big fours, they are hiring freshers, but if you have this knowledge, it gives you an edge. They directly put you into the um, GRC analyst roles or teams, maybe with 1 year of experience, and with this knowledge, it will definitely give you a very good hike. And of course, it gives you better environment to adjust, because what you have learned, and if you get the practical knowledge, right, so it helps you adjust well. You'll be better be able to implement and correlate what is the company talking about, what are their client issues, and what are you going to do. It helps you adjust well. That's what.
Great, great, perfect. Pranav is also thanking you. So
Welcome.
great. Guys, the floor is open for another, say, 30 seconds. And please feel free to drop your questions in the comment sections, and we'll be happy to help. So while they are typing, Pallavi, I thought let's discuss. Like you've had a lot of real client project experience, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that kind of shapes the way you train, as opposed to a theoretical, outlook? So what is your approach towards the training, knowing the reality of day-to-day client exchanges and actual projects versus how the theory puts it?
So see, when I had done ISO before I got into this IT cybersecurity domain, I would say. So when I did it, it was theoretical because, to be very honest, I did a course where it was purely theory, right? But I could not relate anything to it. But when you actually work and you do some certain certification, you have a background knowledge to it, so then you kind of relate to it. I'll try to relate it with an example. Um, uh, risk management, there are four processes: you identify, you treat, and then you maintain a risk register, you monitor and track.
Mhm.
But what it actually means on ground to do it, right?
Yeah.
Unless, um, like, your assets, but you asset could be, a server or monitor or desktop that I'm using, but you don't know there is a firewall working, right? There is something protecting something like Cloudflare. They all are asset to you. Did you ever
Yeah.
consider third parties as your assets? Even they are your assets.
Mm.
What if Microsoft stops working? Right?
Mhm.
So did you
Yeah.
ever consider the risk that you are purely relying on WhatsApp? For example, somebody in BPO sector, right? You always rely on calls, you have a dependency on internet, your landlines. But
Mhm.
what if you take the customer support? Nowadays every customer support service is through WhatsApp, right? You have
Okay.
multiple platform, you have email,
Yeah.
right? But what are the risks associated with it? If, let's say, your landlines are not working, did
Mm.
you do you have a measure in place that automatic replies goes to the client, that you can
Yeah.
reach out on email? Do you have that on your website? So all
Mm.
these things, your checks and balances, where you
Mm.
can go wrong, what you should include, this is
Mm.
what it teaches you. And
Right.
definitely practical experience helps a lot more to get into depth
Mhm.
and bring out. For example, people knew that when we talk of data owners, asset owners, it is like who owns the overall inventory, right?
Yeah.
But when I talk of sales department,
Mm.
there is a sales head, he could be the owner, he will tell,
Mhm.
okay, the leads team, or let's say the actual account opening team, will have
Mm.
access to my data or they don't. So they are the owner. But who are the actual users? Your
Yeah.
team, your sales team. So they become the custodians of the asset. So
Right.
do you know that difference? This is something that you get to know only once you're practically handling. So this
Okay.
is, yeah, so this is how it helps.
Right. Because in real life, it could get a little bit tricky.
Tricky, there are lots of things. People are not ready to support you for implementing
Mm.
policies, right? How to
Correct.
convince them, to tell them that it is helpful, it is for the benefit of the
Mm.
company and for the automation. So how do you
Right.
convince them? How the change management takes place?
Right. So
That
you help out during the live sessions as well. You help them dialogue with stakeholders, or maybe just people who are supposed to be involved in the process, which is technically, say, department heads or anybody
yes,
who's handling data.
yes, I can help them in identifying who are the
Hmm.
decision makers, whom to ask if this is the problem,
And
who will
probably
give
how
the
to ask,
approval.
and the
Maybe yes.
resistances that can come.
Maybe that depends.
Perfect, perfect. All right, so we have another question from a LinkedIn user. Again, we're so sorry we can't see your name. It says, "Ma'am, does ISO covers AI related risks also?"
AI related risk? Yes, in case you are using certain applications. What are those applications? For example, you may be using, every company, every individual is using ChatGPT nowadays, right? It's an AI tool. So, do you have you told in your policy that so and so AI related applications can be used? I'm just giving you an example, right? So, can you use that application? Should you use in incognito mode? Have you enabled the privacy module in the chat GPT, or you are using an open domain? Because whatever you are, have you written in your policy that while using such tools and applications, you will not put your company name, you will not add your company data for analysis, right? So these are the checks and balances. ISO will not tell you how the AI tools are working, it will tell you what things you can, what controls can you implement over these applications so as to prevent your info security. I hope it helps.
Great, great. So this is looking at AI from the business perspective and policy perspective, as opposed to
Yes.
the technicalities of AI.
Yes, how to use those applications and tools, what are the controls to be taken care of.
Understood, understood. And Aman is here to help. Sir's name is Manpreet Singh. Okay, hi, Manpreet Singh. Thank you so much for writing in, and thank you, Aman, for the tip.
Thank you.
All right, so Pallavi, let's wait another 30 seconds and then we can wrap up. I will flash the numbers on the screen. Anybody who's interested in joining Pallavi for the upcoming ISO 27001 lead implementer training, please feel free to reach out. And she gives you like additional perks as well. She also takes you through third party risk management. She also gives you a nice kind of like a hands on overview of governance and risk management as well. So these are things that she just adds into the course because it is important. Even if it may be a little outside the scope, but she'll cover it because you should know those things.
Yeah, because they're related to ISO 27001.
Yeah, superb. And Mr. Manpreet is saying that I am joining your course. Superb. That's wonderful to know.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's a big motivator for me
Yes,
as well. Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So even Ghazal, even if we end this session, we can have questions on LinkedIn. There is no issue. I'll be
Superb.
happy
Superb.
to answer or help. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And in case we missed out on anything, you can see the numbers on the screen. Please don't hesitate in reaching out to us. We'll be happy to answer any queries, any doubts you have. We'll be happy to hold a discussion with you and to also help you set up and get started with your ISO 27001 lead implementer training led by Lieutenant Colonel Pallavi Rawal. So
Thank
thank
you,
you
Ghazal.
so much,
Thank you for the
Pallavi.
opportunity today. Yeah.
Right back at you. Thank you so much for taking out the time. I know how busy you are. I've seen it firsthand. So thank you so much for taking out the time and hosting this wonderful session.
And thank you all for joining the session today. Thank you for making it interactive and not one way monologue. It helps, even it helps us to better convey our knowledge. Thank you everyone.
Yes, well put. Thank you so much, everybody. And also thank you to the ones who are going to be watching this in the recorded format. You can see the numbers on the screen again. Please feel free to reach out to us, and we will see you in the next one.
Right.